Welcome to On Our Watch, a podcast about coastal erosion and sustainability in Louisiana, as well as the implications for coastal systems worldwide. My name is Marian Evans. I'm a filmmaker and a producer of the documentary On Our Watch, a feature-length film about Louisiana's coastal land loss crisis. The film's director, Jonathan Evans, and I are proud to produce this podcast series that will continue to explore important coastal issues through conversations with local residents, community leaders, and experts. This episode is the third of a three-part series focusing on the importance of mental health care in coastal communities, and specifically in Lafourche Parish. Today, we're speaking to Heidi Irwin. Heidi is a licensed clinical social worker in the Victims Assistance Department of the Lafourche Parish District Attorney's Office. This department is designed to aid victims and their family members as they move through the criminal justice system. And now, our interview with Heidi Irwin. Thank you, Heidi, for joining us today.
Good morning.
So you work in the Lafourche Parish District Attorney's Office as a licensed clinical social worker. And I wanted to ask, what initially drew you to the field of social work?
The field of social work has always amazed me. And I say that because when I think of psychology and social work, both are interesting and both are, I gravitate towards them. But for social work, it's truly looking at the environment, the community, genetics, and how those things affect a person. So it's a person-centered feel, and it's not just looking at the individual, it's looking at all the elements.
Right, so it's a more holistic approach.
Correct.
I know you work on the victims assistance team here at the DA's office as a licensed clinical social worker. So what does that role primarily entail for you?
One of the things that the district attorney committed to the community was to expand victim services. And so in 2018, August, I was hired to join the team. What was unique about this, in a sense, is that we've always had a victims department, but a clinical component was not there. So that's one thing DA Russell wanted to do, was to expand those services for our victims. We have our attorneys who, without our attorneys, we wouldn't have our job, but they are focused on prosecution of the cases. So where we come in is basically, to be there to provide that level of support for victims, witnesses, and their families.
Mm-hmm. And so what are some of the main challenges that you've seen victims face in this community, especially following major disasters like Hurricane Ida and COVID, things like that, especially in terms of mental health?
So as an advocate, one of the things that within the last 5 years that I've noticed is that we do a wonderful job, but we need more services. We have victims of significant crimes, domestic violence, sexual assault, murders, and we know that when they enter this system, the length of a trial to see it from beginning to end, unfortunately, takes a long time. And so what typically will happen, the department, that's one of our main roles, is to start that process with the victim and then end that process. So we do become, very close to them once we get to the end. But mental health-wise, as you can imagine, someone who's experienced sexual assault, domestic violence, it's trauma. And we know, trauma, if not dealt with, we carry that into our adult life, especially with our child victims. And sadly, our numbers of sexual assault and domestic violence have risen since COVID, the hurricane, and so forth.
Mm-hmm. And so I know Hurricane Ida hit this area really hard in 2021.
Yes.
What are some of the challenges that you've seen victims and residents face from that?
It's interesting because when I look back to Hurricane Ida and to COVID, it's almost as though there's a block of time that's missing. And I hear that most often from people that I work with, where we knew it happened, we went through it, but we were just unsettled with it. Mm-hmm. So, going back to it, I think Ida had a profound effect on mental health, not only, for children, but for parents, for us even as workers, because we experienced it with them. One of the things that, we tried to do after the hurricane, we got out there. We went to the distribution sites. We tried to help the community in any way we could, because it was not only important to us, as individuals, but I think as a community and as a support system for the community, we wanted to be there.
Right. And so can you tell me about your involvement in the Welcome Home Lafourche event that you all put on following Hurricane Ida in 2021, and what was special about that event for the
So you can see I'm smiling as I'm talking, as you're asking me that question. So Welcome Home Lafourche, it's probably one of the things that I'm most proud of, myself and my colleagues. After the hurricane, our parish president reached out to the district attorney, and they were having a conversation about some of the mental health needs and just the state of how people were after the hurricane, because we were past that point, but yet we were fight, flight, freeze. A lot of us were frozen in time. So at that point, I had a coworker here. I'd be remiss if I did not mention her, Demi Papa. She and I, we always talked about different things, community, collaboration. And so what we did is got with the parish, the sheriff's office, and we formed a committee. And so from that committee, we talked about different things that we wanted to do, for the community. It started out as, maybe wanting to do some events where we could talk, to people, but making it in a way, not to infringe upon someone's space. So from that, Welcome Home Lafourche was born. And so we had a very short amount of time to put it together. But what I can say is everyone at that table, we committed, we worked very hard to put on the event. We did the event in December of 2021. It started out very small, but it was huge. Had over, I want to say close to 3,000 people who attended. Everything at the event was free. We had presents, we had resources. I met someone on one of the first days of one of the distribution sites. She owns a company and basically helps out for disasters. So thankfully, I was able to bounce off of her throughout this, which we are still friends today. And so one of the things that she indicated that could be best is having something collaboratively for the community. So once she and I talked about that, and it was like, we have to do this. And so she assembled a team and actually came down as well and provided some, crisis work as well. So for me, it was not only bringing the community together for the holiday, but bringing a day of normalcy when we were in nothing that was normal. Mm-hmm. So that's how it came about. And it was really just a wonderful and beautiful experience, because for one day you could see the smiles, you could see the parents breathing a little bit easier. And it was just, I can't say enough about it, but it was definitely a collaborative effort amongst all of us.
Right. You think it really did a lot to raise people's spirits in that time?
I do. We had Santa Claus. We had in the gym, we had a room full of gifts. And, we knew at that point in time with the economy, people were displaced. Some people were living out of state. Some people were living in campers, sleeping in tents. We had people sleeping in tents. So we knew that they would not be able to have, the Christmas that they may have been accustomed to, or maybe not have a Christmas that, they've ever had. Mm-hmm. So for us, it was really, to get with community stakeholders. And I will tell you, this is a very generous community. It's a very resilient community. And when it comes to people wanting to help others, I can think of no better place to be. the generosity of just people from all over. It was beautiful.
Yeah. Speaking of that, what do you think is particularly special or unique about this area and the people that live here, you know, living in a coastal environment and having to deal with some of these issues on a regular basis?
I know it's cliche, but resilience, I'm going to say it. I feel that our people are resilient. When it comes down to doing something for the community or for our brothers or sisters, be it individuals, churches, schools, people come through, and it doesn't matter who you are. I think, you know, I've seen that especially in the role that I'm in here. You know, even though we're the district attorney's office, we get so many people in from off the street looking for help. And even though they don't have a case here, it's still, we have to get them the services that they need. So knowing who to call, you know, where to call is a huge thing. And what I can tell you is people are always giving. And if they can't, they're going to find you a resource that will be able to help.
Right. And so what would you say to anyone who might be struggling with mental health issues in Lafourche Parish?
One of the things that we have always talked about is you never know at the end of the day what someone goes home with. We always, all of us come, we wear the smile, we put on the mask, but at the end of the day, we don't know each other. So for me, reach out. You know, we have really tried hard to extend olive branches in the community. And I think the community collaboration, the relationships that we've built, you know, like I said, if we can't help you, we're going to find you someone who can. And mental health, the impacts are so far reaching. You know, it affects every aspect of life. And you throw in trauma, and then it just exacerbates everything. So for me, it's always reach out. You know, reach out, because there are people who care and there are people who want to help, truly.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for talking to me today,
Thank you for
Heidi.
having me.
Thank you for listening to On Our Watch. We hope you enjoyed our discussion with Heidi Irwin. Don't forget to subscribe to On Our Watch on your favorite podcast app to be notified about future episodes. You can find our feature-length documentary On Our Watch, as well as a video version of today's episode, in the links below. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll be back with another episode next week. This podcast is made possible through support from the Greater New Orleans Foundation and executive produced by Bruno UK Steiner.